Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you. Hello, I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally, and today I am bringing you a book review. And this is the book I want to review. It's called The 100, a ranking of the most influential persons in history. It's written by Michael Hart. And Michael Hart goes into history to look at who were the most influential persons in history. The whole premise of the book, as he explains in the introduction, is that Voltaire, in one of his writings, says that when he was in England, he overheard some learned men discussing who might have been the most influential person in history. And names like Caesar and Alexander the Great and so on came up. And then somebody said Sir Isaac Newton. And Voltaire thought, well, yeah, that makes sense because Sir Isaac Newton, was concerned about truth and physical evidence. And that's to be much valued. So this author says, well, let's look at what are the characteristics that will render judgment on who was the most influential person in history. So he looks at a few characteristics and he says, well, we're not dealing with greatness here. The question of greatness is a different question than the question of influence. If you want to know who left the greatest influence on history, that's a different question. So he looks at a wide variety of phenomena. How local or international was that person's influence? So one person may have had some local influence, but he's hardly known outside of that local area. But another person may be having a more global influence. And what about the time factor? A person may have influence for a time, but that influence may die out after a while. Another person may have lasting influence into our present time. And while the future is unpredictable, there are some things that you can foresee will continue. So what about the influence of a certain individual? Will that influence continue into our future as well? So with factors like these, he then goes into a detailed study. Now, he realizes that you cannot just start anywhere. You have to have some starting point. And the starting point for him are the kinds of biographical dictionaries that are already there. Because if you have billions of people who have ever lived, how are you going to decide who was the most influential person? Well, you start with something like a biographical dictionary that lists something like 20,000 persons who are notable individuals in history. So you can at least start with these 20,000. And of the 20,000, you only want to pick 100. So it has to be like a selection out of a selection here. Now, he only happened to include about 3 women in the list of 100 influential persons. And he explains why this is so. He says that it is a fact that in the past, women did not have a great scope for exercising their influence on the world. And while this is a regrettable fact, he's not going to go back and revise it and say, okay, had the circumstances been different, this particular woman might have had a greater influence. He's not talking about the might-haves, and so whether he's dealing with men or women, he's talking about the actual facts that on the ground. Now, he says, I will not deal with legendary individuals. I want to deal with real persons. So whereas, for example, the Chinese sage philosopher Lao Tzu might be thought to have great influence, but the fact of his existence is in question. So he's not going to include that person. And he's going to deal with known individuals as opposed to like an anonymous person. Like, let's say, for example, we talk about the invention of the wheel or invention of writing. Well, both the wheel and writing has had a tremendous and lasting impact on the world, but we cannot identify a particular individual who can be credited with the invention of the wheel or of writing. So neither legendary nor anonymous persons can make the list. Now, to start from the bottom in a way, there are persons who did not make the list of 100, but because of their great influence and other factors, they are included at the end under honorable mention. So, for example, in this list, we have somebody like Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who is known to the world as a great mind. A selection out of a selection, as we said. Now, what is most interesting about this book for me is that Jesus, on whom be peace, is placed as number 3. Now, we might have thought Jesus is the most influential person in the world, at least in the West. One might be inclined to think so. But he explains why Jesus did not get placed as number 1. He explains that Jesus, on whom be peace, though he is highly regarded among Christians in particular and known to the world, his particular teachings did not get applied as much as we might have expected. For example, if we think about Jesus' saying, do not, if somebody strikes you on one cheek, then you turn to him the other cheek also. Well, then, this is a nice ideal, but it's not, as he said here, the truth is that they are not widely followed. This is on page 50 of his book. In fact, they're not even generally accepted. So even though one might say that sounds nice, but, it's not actually put into practice. The other reason why he does not place Jesus as number 1 is that even though Christianity became the most widely adhered to religion in the world, Christianity is not founded merely by Jesus, he says. He writes on page 47, Christianity was not founded by a single person, but by 2 persons, Jesus and St. Paul. And the principal credit for its development must therefore be apportioned between these 2 figures. So he does not give the full credit to Jesus for what is now known to be Christianity. Some of that credit has to go to St. Paul as well. And so the credit is naturally divided. And though Christianity is the most major religion in the world, its founder is not the most influential persons among the 100. So who then is the most influential person? Before we get to that, Sir Isaac Newton, whose name came up in Voltaire's recollection of that conversation he spoke about, is number 2. So coming to number 1, Michael Hart has put the Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace. Of course, I'm adding on whom be peace because he's treating this from a totally secular point of view. And he's asking who was the most influential persons in all of history. Now, why does he place Muhammad as number 1? He says here on page 3, my choice of Muhammad to lead the list of the world's most influential persons may surprise some readers and may be questioned by others. But he was the only man in history who was supremely successful in both the religious and secular levels. So he is crediting Muhammad, on whom be peace, with this influence because he left a tremendous impact both on the religious sphere and on the secular sphere. So as for the religious sphere, there is no doubt that Muslims the world over are all adhering to and following the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the message that he left. According to Michael Hart here, the Quran, which is read by Muslims the world over, is a faithful expression of the message that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, preached. And so by following the Quran, Muslims are actually following Muhammad, and that has left a lasting legacy in the religious sphere. But going beyond the religious sphere, we find that Muhammad, on whom be peace, has had an influence on society and on the politics even of our day. As for society, we can see that the Arabic language of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has survived and unified the Arabic world so that the standard Arabic is the same throughout. And we find also that the modern political systems in the Arab world in particular have a lot to do with the influence that was left by the Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace. Of course, there is divergence as well, but the influence is still there to be recognized. So altogether, I find that this is a very interesting book to read, to study history with, and to think about who were the most influential persons in history. Is there anything that I didn't like about the book? No, I'm so overawed and overwhelmed with this book, and that I didn't pick out anything that I didn't like about it. And I would highly recommend this. This is a book that has changed my life. And I hope that it will make an impact on you as well. Perhaps it might even change your life. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you.
When did you start watching Let the Quran Speak? A year ago? 5, 10, 20 years ago? So many of you message us and comment and email us to tell us how much Let the Quran Speak means to you. You tell us you were disillusioned with Islam, but we've helped you return. You tell us you became Muslim after watching our show. We hear from people who knew about Muslims only from the media and have found their misperceptions shattered. We hear from people who disagree with us but respect and admire us for the values we represent. We get requests from chaplains, teachers, and journalists. Let the Quran Speak has grown tremendously. From a no-frills, volunteer-driven side project, we've built a strong team and developed expertise in video production. We've been on TV for 20 years now. We're thriving on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Every year, thousands of hours go into research, writing, producing, and editing. Over the last 2 years, we've diversified our content, producing short films, documentaries, and video essays. Our operations were limited during COVID, but we've continued to produce new content and new episodes. But there's still so much more we can do. We want to take Let the Quran Speak to the next level. We want to build a specialized studio, which will serve as a creative hub for Muslims in the arts. We want to engage the best and brightest creative talent. We want to go out into the community and tell stories about Muslims from all walks of life. We can't do it without you. Your support has been instrumental in helping us advance. And now we're reaching out to you again. We need your help to continue growing. This Ramadan, we are launching a campaign to raise $170,000. We have around 170,000 subscribers on YouTube. If each person gave as little as $1, we would be well positioned to advance Let the Quran Speak. If you enjoy our content and think our work is important, we invite you to join our journey. Empower us to showcase Muslims' lives. Help us share the message of Islam in a way that people can connect with and understand. Support us today, and together we can take Let the Quran Speak to the next level. Your contribution is tax-deductible and zakat eligible. Most importantly, you will get a share in the reward from God. May God bless you and your loved ones with the very best always, and may you draw ever closer to God this Ramadan.